Hey y'all, I wanted to bring you to a new video today. Um, we're going to be getting into a new container orchestration method. Many of you probably have heard of it before. As you've seen as well, I've done previous videos on Docker, setting up maybe an Nginx container, using Portainer, and all sorts of fun stuff. But today we're getting into something a little more advanced called Kubernetes. Now, while you could say this is similar to something like Docker Swarm, it is, but isn't. It is most definitely probably the most fun I've had once I get it running. The hardest part, honestly, getting Kubernetes set up is getting your cluster established and getting everything you need up and going. From there, a lot of it is really just looking at your YAMLs, making sure that your storage class is defined and that you don't have two default storage classes defined. So that seems to be the other big problem I'm having. Um, but given that I've actually had some recent issues with some database stuff, moving over from a standalone MariaDB server to a MariaDB Galera cluster, um, I'll get I'll make another video on that as well. But there were some issues, and I need to rebuild my Kubernetes cluster for like the fifth time now. So I decided this would be an excellent video to demonstrate to you guys just how to set it up now that I have all of my nodes established. As you can see here, all three of these, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, are bare metal nodes. We're not using the cloud. We're not using DigitalOcean. We're not using Google's Kubernetes cloud, things like that. So we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to show you guys how to get started. So first off, I'm going to select Alpha. We're going to create a new virtual machine from this node. Create VM Alpha. Name K3S01. Next, we'll use CD DVD drive because we have NetBoot as an ISO, and I'll show you guys what that looks like here in a minute. We'll go next, default graphics card, BIOS, all that stuff, and we'll do disk size. We'll keep it. No, we'll keep it 32 for now. That should be sufficient, I believe. I think 16 might be a little tight. We'll keep it at 32. We'll go one socket with 4 cores to start with. We can always expand this, as well as 8,192 or 8 gigs of memory. Go next, disable the firewall, make sure we're on bridge 0, the default 1. We don't need to define a VLAN tag on ours because our native VLAN is already management. This may need to be changed to your network settings though. And this is all just for Proxmox, or if you're using vSphere, Hypervisor, all that good stuff, or Hyper-V. We'll go ahead, start after created, and finish. Let this one make it. Oh, it is going to fail. There's one last thing I do have to change, because it is going to have trouble starting. I don't know why Proxmox does this. Nope, wrong one. Open? Yep, that's why. Oh, older CPU. I don't have updated ones. Processors. Edit. Scroll down to host. Okay. Okay, now we start. Give it a minute here. And there it goes. So it's going to boot from the ISO, which is NetBoot. Give it a minute here to establish. Maybe. We will do Linux network install. We'll do Debian. And we'll do bookworm. Text-based. And it boots. Cool. So give that a minute. English, United States, American English. Go through all the regular install settings. This may pertain differently to you depending on your Debian configuration. And realistically, you really can use any sort of Linux, Arch, Debian, Ubuntu, Parrot, Hannah Montana Linux, whatever you choose. Basically, what we're doing is we're setting up our master node for Kubernetes or K3S. So we'll do nope, we'll keep it K3S, simple, 01, continue, and uno momento. Okay. And go back. There you go. Wanted to make sure we hide that real quick. We'll use the same archive mirror. We're not using a proxy. And we'll give that a minute to set up. Okay, so now we're back. Install is complete. We went through everything, got our partitioning set up, all that good stuff. I pushed that all to the side just because that's more related to how we want to configure it. You should configure your system to the best of your ability, how you see fit, because this will vary on your configuration, how you want your servers set up, things all that nature. So we'll go ahead, hit continue, and reboot the system. Okay, so now that the system is up to date, everything's installed, and we do have everything on the system, we're going to make sure that we do have curl installed, apt install curl, which it is. And then next, we're going to copy this first part right here, this curl up to the pipe. We'll copy and paste that. And then from there, we'll want to first define the K3S version that we want to install. Now, the reason for this is Rancher only supports up to a certain series of K3S here. I'll show you. So we're installing Rancher to manage our Kubernetes cluster. And K3S supported is only between 1.25 and 1.28. So as a result, we're going to need to define an environment variable to install a specific version of K3S, which is right here. So we'll go install K3S version equals quote, and we'll go ahead and find one right in between, 1.27x, and we'll use this one right here. So v, exactly as it puts, v 1.27.16 plus kilo 301. Then finally, we'll want to finish it off with the sh, and let's see here, not environment variables, we are looking for the external data store. There it is. Okay, so as you see here, we have that curl sfl. Then we're going to want this sh all the way up to server, paste that, which can be Control-Shift-V in the terminal, and then we're going to want that data store endpoint. I'll show you guys that. So what we're doing here is, we're defining a data store endpoint in which Kubernetes will store its configuration and what it's currently doing. Thus, by doing so, all nodes in the cluster will have an up-to-date status on what the cluster is supposed to be doing, what it should be, updates, changes, modifications, destructions to different objects, things like that. And since we have already defined a schema and user, which we have right here, we are going to do, let's see here, username colon password, and our username is Kubernetes, with a very secure password, not a secure password. 1, 2, 3, 4. Please don't use this, or you may run into issues in the future, but just using this for demonstration. TCP, our host name, which this is our Galera cluster, our node 10.100.0.10, 10.100.0.10, and we'll close, oh no, port, then we close it off. That's right. Then / the database name, which as you see here, prod-cluster-K3S, just to make sure no additional changes, there's no tables. So prod cluster K3S. Close that off, and we don't need to designate a TLS SAN. So if we've defined everything correctly, which I believe we have, 10.100.0.10, secure password, Kubernetes. Okay, we'll minimize that. That is 127.16 plus K3S1. Okay, so now we're all ready. Enter. Oh boy. Where did I mess up? Okay, my apologies. I apparently don't know bash basics. We need single quotes instead of double for the data store endpoint because we're using exclamation mark. So, enter. Goes ahead, downloads the version 1.27.16, installs everything, makes a systemd unit, meaning that K3S will install as a service. So if it fails, the system will automatically try and restart that service and bring it back online. So we'll give it a minute here to bring everything up. Shouldn't take too long here. Okay, now that our Kubernetes system has been established and installed, we're going to go ahead and check in on the status. First thing we're going to do is systemctl status K3S. And what that tells us is the service is actively running with no errors currently. And now we'll do kubectl get nodes. Now, as you can see, we have our system right here, K3S01, our current host name. Status is ready, control plane, and master node, as well as it's been up and running for 132 minutes with our version right there. You can also do a kubectl get pods, which will get it from the default namespace. Because we have nothing there, we'll do all namespaces. And as you can see here, everything has installed and successfully been brought online. So now we're ready to install Rancher. We'll go ahead, clear our terminal, and get ready for the next step. Okay, now before we do install Rancher, we need one prerequisite, and that is Helm or installing Helm charts. Now in order to install Helm, we're going to need to run a few commands to get Helm, install a script, and go from there. So at helm.sh, we're going to go ahead, grab this one first here, and then do chmod 700 get helm and run it. Okay, so now we should run helm and we have access to that. Okay, now that Helm chart has been installed, we're going to go ahead and continue on with our Rancher install. Now, in order to do so, we will need to point Helm or Helm chart system to our Kubernetes cluster. We'll verify that first by doing echo $sign to designated bash variable kube config, and we have nothing. So as a result, we're going to do export kube config without the $sign equals etc rancher. Oh, if I can type, etc rancher K3S K3S.exe. Okay. Now that that's been complete, let's continue on with our install. So we'll go through all this, yada yada yada. We're going to install the stable repository for Rancher since this is, well, stable, obviously. We don't want to do alpha, bleeding edge, nightly, latest, whatever that is. We want it to be stable, running, no issues. So we'll add this repository here, which is the Rancher stable repository for Helm chart. And then from there, we're going to create a namespace. Now this namespace will designate all Rancher resources within their own little kind of container or folder. So kubectl create namespace, which you can also use ns short for namespace, cattle system. And now that it's been created, we can verify that by using kubectl get ns namespace, and there it is, cattle system, 5 seconds old. Scroll on down here, take care of all of that. This will be done later here. I'll show you guys that in a minute. We're not going to apply this because we don't have anything currently existing for custom resource definitions for cert-manager, so that we'll ignore. We'll add the JIT-stack repository so that we can install cert-manager here. Update all repositories, repo update. And finally, we'll copy this command here, which will install cert-manager, the custom resource definitions, as well as create a namespace for cert-manager to work in. So I'll paste that. Give it a moment here. Okay, so it did take a minute, but we have cert-manager installed now, and we can continue on. We do want to verify just real quick here. kubectl get pods, namespace, cert-manager, just as it goes here. Just like that. Oh, I spelled pods wrong. Might help if you can spell them and type correctly. Okay, everything's running, not active, not creating, but running, which means it's good to go. We'll scroll down here. Rancher generated certificate, since we don't really want to expose it for Let's Encrypt or anything like that. So we'll do this one. Copy this command, do not run it. And not a secure password. LOL 1 2 3 4. Okay. So that will be our Bootstrap password in order to sign into Rancher. We'll get into that here in a second. I'll show you guys what that looks like. And we're going to use rancher.dwxenterprises.internal cattle system. And then finally, to top it off, we're going to use the same chart repos we did earlier. Because we use the stable repository, as I showed you guys, where is it? Right here. We're basically going to copy paste that where this goes here. So we'll be installing Rancher stable into the cattle system namespace. We'll be using the host name rancher.dwxenterprises.internal, which is an internal only domain I've already designated in my system, or in my network, I should say. And then we're going to use this password to actually get into Rancher to further then deploy any additional assets, objects, things of that nature for Kubernetes. But this will be required in order to access Rancher, otherwise you're SOL. So we'll go ahead and hit enter on that. And that should install Rancher, just like that. That took a really short time compared to cert-manager. I'm not sure why. So now we're good to go. Let's get into Rancher and get started building. Okay, now that Rancher has been brought online, it did take some time for it to create, make all of its certificate requests and whatever it needed to do in the background, but it is online. So now we're going to get into it, and I'll show you guys here. If we went to our DNS hostname as we described, let me see here if I can get it for you real quick here. And there it is. Okay. So when we did a Helm install, we went for Rancher stable in the cattle system. We set the hostname to Rancher Dukesy Enterprises internal, as you can see here, and we set the Bootstrap password to not a secure password, LOL 1234. So now we went to that domain name right there that we created. We're going to paste in that same password, as you can see there, and log in. And voila, you can go away. You're not going to allow a collection of anonymous statistics, just a preference of mine. We'll accept the end user license agreement, keep the server URL the same, and continue. And just like that, we have now accessed our Rancher cluster. We can go ahead, start including some apps, getting them set up, getting them going, whether it's maybe WordPress, MariaDB, there's all sorts of things as you can see available here. Elemental, I'll probably get into soon here. If you wanted to make Longhorn, for example, we can install that actually real quick. I'll show you guys that just as a little bit of a bonus. Okay, so after some debugging, we have got Longhorn up. I do apologize for that. I'll probably have to make some cuts given the circumstances of this video and such. But I do want to tell you guys we have Longhorn installed. We'll go through it real quick. I'll wrap up this video. We did have some initial issues. It looks like Kubernetes was still trying to come up, finish its install, and we had some predicaments, let's just say. So because we are on a Debian-based system, if I pull this over here, we actually had to, let's see here, where was it? iSCSI ADM was not available, so we had to go install OpenISCSI, and that was used for Longhorn, so it could complete the block storage install, go from there. Longhorn is online. We got it up and running. Like I said, if you guys do have any issues, please let me know. I'd be happy to, make a diagnostic video, debug, whatever it may be. But it is installed, so we'll go ahead and exit out of these little tabs here. And don't worry about that. Helm is being a bitch. If we go to Service Discovery, Services, we have our ingress here, which I believe is for Rancher. We don't need to worry about that. But we should be able to go down, there it is, the Longhorn front end. If we go into here, we can now see we have available block storage for Longhorn. We can see which nodes are online, how much is available for use. We can see any available volumes, if we want to create a volume, whatever it may be. And then we can go from there, say, maybe we go to apps, for example. I don't know if WordPress, it is not. Okay. So, for example, we'll take this. Let's go find a random, we'll do Glue. I think Glue holds storage. So we do install Glue, for example. What we will need to do is persistence, persistence backend, where is it? Basically, we'll need to install or change the storage class. Let me see if I can do the YAML instead. Come on. Storage class. There it is. So this, instead of being the brackets, will need to be Longhorn. Since we're actually using, let's see here, storage class, Longhorn right here. So that needs to pertain to that when you do install new systems or new applications to the Kubernetes cluster, since you need to designate that instead of using your local path or the default, which this needs to go away. Stop doing that. I hope I didn't just break anything. This will designate Longhorn as the default storage class, so all volumes use Longhorn. All the data is stored in a Longhorn block, thus providing redundancy for multiple nodes, for example. If you're using a one node cluster, Longhorn really isn't necessary. It's, I mean, I guess you could use it. It is overkill. But yeah, so basic little bonus clip here. I do apologize for the cuts and such. Trying my best, but we have successfully installed Kubernetes. We can go from there, installing apps, installing new repositories, and thus building out our full workload and project. So if you guys do have any questions, concerns, comments, whatever it may be, leave them down in the comment section below. And yeah, I hope to see you guys around, and I'll see if I can make more videos without sending the cluster into meltdown. So thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.